Today I am going to discuss the topic that is Factory Act. So let's start with the basic meaning of Factories Act. Factories Act basically first established in India in the year that is 1881. The basic and main function of Factories Act is to protect the children and to provide the few measures of health and safety of the workers. The number of workers who are working within the organization for the purpose of producing goods and services for developing the goal of organization. This act was basically established to protect the interest of those workers who are working within the organization. This act basically provides various measures and various kind of provisions related to protection of children, related to health, safety of the workers. This law was applicable to only those factories which employed 100 or more workers. A factory in which the work is performed by the number of workers, the number is 100. Where the number of workers are 100 and they are performing their duties in that factory, this Factory Act was implemented. In the year 1891, another Factories Act was passed, which extended to the factories employed 50 or more workers. So, after the year that is 1991, another act was passed for what purpose? For the favor of children, health, and safety of the workers to those factories in which the number of workers are employed 50 or more workers. So Factory Act include that is health, safety, welfare, working hour for adults and annual leave wages. All these points were discussed one by one in the further topic. So we take the overview that is health. What is Health Act? So according to the section 11 to 20 of the Factories Act 1942, it deals with the provisions that is related to the health of the workers in the factory. And if we are talking about the safety, according to this act was implemented under Factories Act 1948 and it deals with the provisions that is related to the safety of the workers in the factory. And if we are talking about the third point, that is welfare. So there are many welfare provisions that are mentioned under the Act, and those welfare provisions like working hour, annual leave pay wages, all these concepts are studied. First of all, we need to discuss the basic meaning of factory. What is the meaning of factory? Factory basically means that place where the operations are performed for production and selling it to the market. Factory is defined in the section 2 and subsection M of the Act. It means any of the premises that includes the cases that is wherein the number of workers are employed 10 or more workers who are working for about the period of 12 months that maybe the project is accomplished by the organization. And any part of the manufacturing process where goods and services are converted from raw material to the finished product, where all the process is being carried by the number of workers is the place known as factory. According to the second point, that is where on 20 or more workers, where the number of workers employed is increasing. That is 20 or more workers are working and were working on any day of the proceeding that is about 12 months. It means 1 year project period. And in any part of the manufacturing process, that manufacturing process is carried for the purpose of operations that is performed according to the objectives of the organization. So here is the word that is known as manufacturing process. Manufacturing process itself is known as that is the various steps that are used by the organization for what purpose? For the purpose of manufacturing the goods and services from raw material to the finished product. It is the very basic and first process that is adapted by the organization for transform raw material into final product. This manufacturing process begins with the product design. that what is the product design that is adapted by the organization, what kind of material is used in the organization, and other kind of facilities like water facilities, any other substances facilities. All these things must be considered under manufacturing process. So here are some objectives of the Factory Act. With the help of the Factory Act, that it ensures the adequate safety level of the workers. Whenever there is any kind of dangerous machine that is used for the manufacturing purpose or production purpose, what kind of safety measures, all these guidelines are provided under this act. Factory Act also helps to promote the health and safety and welfare employees that are working within the organization. According to this act, it also makes the provision that is required regarding employment of women and young persons. It helps to determine that those areas where women can employed and where young persons are employed, and also determine those places where there is prohibition of work of employed that is related to the women and young person. The main objective of the Factory Act is to concern with the annual leaves, that what amount of wages are paid to the workers and how much annual leaves are given to the workers. All these provisions are considered under Factories Act. So the very first act, that is the health. According to the section 11 to 20 of the Factories Act 1948, Health Act deals with the provisions that is related to the health of the workers within the factory. The very first one we are going to discuss is according to section 11, that ensure the cleanliness in the factory. Where the work is performed, where the number of workers are available, those areas of the factory must be cleaned according to the proper time. That is, dust should be swiped and cleaned daily. All the floors of like rooms should be cleaned daily. If the floor, any kind of work is done and if the floor is wet, then through any kind of manufacturing process, the effective drainage facility must be provided within the organization. What kind of walls and what kind of paint is to be used, all these things must be considered in the case of cleanliness. So it must be seen that in any factory, the work where the manufacturing process is performed, that proper area must be clean. This act has some following provisions with the respect of health, and these will be discussed as further. So all the accumulated dirts and refuse on floors, trains, and passages in the factory shall be removed daily by sweeping or by any of the effective methods. A person should be appointed, a worker should be appointed who is responsible to perform all these duties, that if the work is performed and while converting the raw material into the finished product, if there is any kind of wastage product that is formed due to the production process, all these wastages and water, all these things must be swiped according to the requirement and according to the provisions. Any kind of disposable thing and suitable arrangements should be made by the person who is responsible for the cleanliness process. Once in every week, the floors should be definitely neat and clean and washing with the disinfectant spray or any kind of method which is used for the cleaning purpose. So all these methods must be adapted under cleanliness in the factory. Moreover, if they have the smooth surface, that should be cleaned at least once in the 14 months. And in the other case, where white or colored wash may be carried out once in every 14 months. So the another one is the disposal of waste. Disposal of waste, that there should be a such arrangement in the factory that the waste or any kind of remains should be easily disposed of. So these provisions are provided by the state government and can involve some rules regarding the arrangement that where the disposable of waste and effluent should be disposed of. Every occupier within the factory shall be responsible for what's responsible, that is effective arrangement of any kinds of wastages that is held due to the production process or manufacturing process in the factory. Such arrangements should be done according to the rules and regulations and guidelines that is provided by the government. And with the respect of those guidelines and rules and regulations that is provided by the government, all these and effluents should be disposed in effective manner. Another one is the ventilation and temperature. So ventilation and the temperature is come under the section that is 13. According to this, that is, effective and suitable provisions shall be made in every factory. For what purpose? For securing and maintaining in every workroom. Ventilation also provided in every room where the work is performed. That is, adequate ventilation and circulation of the fresh air is the important part for every workplace where the workers they are in reasonable condition get comfortable environment where they can perform their necessary work. So the walls of the room and roofs shall be made of such material so that the design that a reasonable temperature does not exceed but kept at low as possible. Whenever the proper building is maintained, the roofs and the walls, these things must be maintained with such kind of material that they can decrease the amount of temperature and maintain proper level of ventilation within the organization. So where the nature of work is carried on the factory generate the excessively high temperature, where certain kind of jobs and certain kind of operations are performed within the factory. By performing that kind of operation in some cases where there is a case that generates the excessive amount of high temperature within the working place. In that case, following protections must be examined. Those protections must be separation such process from the workroom where the heavy temperature, high temperature work is carried out. That room must be separated from the another rooms. And proper ventilation facility by making the exhaust facility and cool down the temperature facility must be provided to that workplaces. A chief inspector person is appointed to maintain the level of ventilation and lower the temperature within the workroom. The next concept is the dust and fumes. Dust and fumes is come under the section that is 40. So in any factory in which the manufacturing process is carried on, so there may be the given off of any dust or fumes. In inhalation, that is sometimes the workers inhale that particles of dust and fumes by the workers in any workroom. It may cause injurious or any offensive injury to the workers that are employed in that particular area. So there are certain manufacturing processes that are performed within the factory like chemical, textile or jute, etc. All these manufacturing processes may contain dust and fume particles, which generate a lot of impurities, and these factors and these particles may be injurious to the health of workers who are worked in the manufacturing process. So following measures should be adapted while making the process that creates the dust and fume within the working area. So effective measures should be taken. For what purpose? To protect the inhalation and accumulation of dust and fumes in the working area. Proper mask facility should be provided to the workers. Such points shall also be enclosed and far as available. Where the process of dust and fume is performed, those areas must be separate from the another working areas where the heavy work of dust and fume is performed. Next one is the artificial humidification. Artificial humidification is come under the section 15. So according to this, a proper prescribed standard of humidification must be maintained within the factory, with the regulating the methods that are used for the artificially increase in the humidification in the air. Artificial methods must be used in the organization for what purpose? To increase the level of humidification in the air. Proper ventilation facilities should be provided, and ventilation and cooling of air facilities must be provided within the factory. Basically, the meaning of humidification means presence of moisture in the air. Where the work is performed by the certain industries. Those industries may be cotton, textile, etc. All these industries require the artificial humidification process, where the degree of humidification is required for what purpose? For carrying the manufacturing process easily. So according to section 15, subsection 1 empowers the state government to make some rules regarding the artificial humidification level maintained in the workroom. Prescribed and standard humidification must be available, and regulating methods are adopted. For what purpose these methods are adopted? To create and increase the artificial humidification in the air. Prescribed tests should be conducted for what purpose? To check the level of humidification in the air and correctly record that what level of humidification, artificial humidification must be maintained in the working room so that the workers can perform their work easily. The next one is the overcrowding. Overcrowding provision is come under the section 16. The overcrowding means to affect the workmen not only in the discharge of duties but also their health, where the number of workers are excess according to the requirement. Overcrowding in a workroom not only affect the workers in their effective discharge of duties but their health also. If the space is not enough for the 100 workers but we assign work in that particular area to 100 workers, this is the term for overcrowding. It will affect the health of workers too. According to the section that has been enacted with the view of providing the sufficient airspace to the worker, those workplace should be assigned to every employee where they get a proper space to perform the work. According to section 16 subsection 1, there should be provision of overcrowding in the workroom to the extent of that may be injurious to the health of the workers. Where the dangerous acts are performed, where there should be the work that is performed on a machinery that may be hazardous for the workers. Apart from the general prohibition, section 16 subsection 2 indicates that lays down the minimum working space for each worker as 14.2 cubic meter. A proper space is assigned to every worker according to the rule of section 16 subsection 2. Every worker will get the space that is 14.2 cubic meter space for per worker to perform their duties within the organization. The next one is the lightning. Lightning is come under the section that is section 17. So there shall be provided and maintained the sufficient and suitable lighting facility which may be natural or artificial or both the facilities in every part of the factory. Where the work is performed, proper lighting facility should be provided. Every factory must provide and maintain the sufficient and suitable lighting facility. Those lighting facility may be in the nature of natural lighting facility or artificial, or it may be both. All the windows that must be made will be glazed and sunlight should pass from that window too. Those windows should be neat and clean from both the sides so that the availability of lighting should be present within the workroom accurately. So effective provisions are also be made for what purpose? For the provision of glares, that is from the sources of light and by reflection for the smooth and polished surface. Where the floors are wet and the work is performed with water, that particular area must get a proper sunlight for smooth surface. So the formation of the shadows to such an extent causing the eye strain or risk of accidents of any worker should be prevented. If the proper lighting facility will be provided to each and every workplace, then the causes of eye strain while performing the work or any kind of risk of happening an accident within the working place, all these things will be prevented if proper lighting facility is provided within the organization. Another one is the drinking water. Drinking water comes under the section 18. According to this act, arrangement shall be made in every factory for what purpose? To provide and maintain a sufficient supply of drinking water. According to the section 18, there are some provisions that are come under the Health Act of drinking water in each and every factory where the work is performed. Effective arrangement or the sources of arrangement regarding the drinking water facility must be provided. The supply must be in the effective manner so that the drinking water facility must be provided to each and every worker. Water should be in the wholesome quantity and pure and free from any impurities. What kind of impurities? The water should not be dirty. The water is in the mean of wholesome quantity and free from any kind of dust and fume or any impurities. Water should be supplied at a suitable point and convenient for all the workers. If the water spot that may be far away from the distance, that is the workplace, it is quite difficult for the workers to get that facility. So while supporting the water facility, the water should be supplied at a suitable point where there is convenient facility for all workers to get the amount of water. According to the next point, that is, no such points should be situated within the 6 meter of any washing place. Those water points where the drinking water facility is situated, that within the 6 meter of the washing place, spittons or any kind of sources of contamination, unless or otherwise approved in written by the chief inspector. If these spots are some near sports to the washing place, pigeons, or any source of contamination, all these facilities will be provided if there is approval in written by the chief inspector.